The polls just closed moments ago for the primary election. We are joined this evening by Don Carrigan and Phil Hirschkorn as we learn more about every campaign with those results slowly coming in over the next few hours. Of course, gentlemen, thanks for being with us.
Yeah.
Sure. Thank you. Sure. How are you?
Very exciting for us to be joined by
Yes, these legends
these
of election.
wonderful
He's a legend.
veterans.
I'm an
Yeah.
We'll test you at 11 p.m. and see if you still agree with that.
Well, you know what? I want to start with you, Don, on this because this has been an interesting primary race.
Oh, yeah.
And you have covered many of these in your time.
I have my... So most of the people who are going to hear this might not have been alive at that point, but the first election I covered was 1974
Okay.
In Maine?
in Maine.
Huh.
Back when they still used stone tablets to ship those in.
Choose your candidate.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And that was the election that for governor that elected our first independent, at least the first one in many years, Jim Longley. And that was interesting because the Democratic candidate in that race was a relatively little-known George Mitchell, who lost, and obviously, then eventually things worked out for him. But yeah, that was a surprise race, and who knows? This year we're going to have an independent candidate as well. Who knows how the stars will line up in November?
What stands out to you about this race compared to other races you've covered in the past?
Well, I mean, it's not unique, but obviously, again, in the race for governor, the number of candidates.
Right. Well, you were saying that too, Phil.
Yeah, I mean, we have 12 survivors. We started with more. We have 7 Republicans actively competing till today and 5 Democrats. That's more than there were on the ballot in 2018 when Janet Mills emerged victorious.
Right.
And I don't know if there have ever been 7 or 8 Republicans.
2010, there were, I think, 7 Republicans.
When LePage came out ahead.
In which Paul LePage
By the way,
came out.
on this very night in 2010.
Right, he won
June
that
9th.
The
The history
Right?
these men come with.
Yeah, and I was going to mention, because I'll forget it if I don't, that year's general election, fall, November 2010, was Paul LePage winning over Democrat Elizabeth Mitchell and independent, a name we've heard lately, Elliott Cutler, just barely by 1 or 2 percentage
What did
points.
he have, 38%?
He beat, something like about that.
Right.
And my recollection is that it took a couple years, but it was that race that really spurred the people on to push for ranked choice voting, because there were, Democrats in particular were unhappy that Paul LePage had won, and they said, oh, if we could only gotten a few more votes to Cutler, he would have won, and subsequent events notwithstanding. And I think people started looking for what can we do in all these multi-candidate races to.
And you know what's interesting to me, interesting or crazy depending on your point of view, is tonight we have ranked choice voting in both primaries for governor, Democrat and Republican, which means we're probably not going to know a winner because it's unlikely someone will get to 50%. We'll see at 11, 12 o'clock where we are.
Right.
But in the fall, in the finals, we'll have a Democrat or Republican, and we know one independent, Rick Bennett, no ranked choice voting. So the scenario that Don's talking about from 16 years ago is likely to repeat itself, although we don't know the order who will win, which party.
Yeah.
The setup may be similar. Who knows if the.
But likely we won't. I mean, we could have a governor who gets 50%, but we very well may not, depending on the strength of the party nominees. We know Rick Bennett's going to mount probably a strong campaign.
And in 2018, the Democratic primary, I believe, Janet Mills won the Democratic primary, her first try for governor, through ranked choice, because there were 5 or 6 candidates. On the Republican side, Sean Moody won with a little over 50%, so they did not do a ranked choice count.
Janet Mills did get 50% in both of her elections, in 18 and 22. General elections.
Yep.
So that asterisk isn't there on her 2 terms.
Right. Right.
I am curious, from your experience covering elections for decades, frankly, we have all collectively gone through months now of watching campaigns unfold. The candidates have gone through months of shaking hands, holding events, debates with you. 5 minutes past polls closing. There are no more shaking hands, no more meetings with potential supporters. What are these candidates doing in this moment tonight? It's not over, but there's nothing more they can do.
Right. Well, I mean, I mean, so, depending on where they are, I'm sure at some of the polling places there are lines of people still waiting to vote. Maybe not huge ones because it's primary, but they're probably someplace. So their staff people are keeping an eye. You know, obviously it's too late to find out if they got all of their people out to vote who they wanted to. That's what they've been working on all day, making calls, all that stuff. Hey, have you voted yet? And I suspect it's a lot more sophisticated now than making phone calls. But
Text on, they get text.
Right.
yeah, yes, they can use the telegraph now. But they, you know, right now probably they're looking at each other in their campaigns and go.
So there is a moment to breathe.
And we've done and second guessing. I'm sure. Did we do everything we had to do? We could do. It's tough. It's got to be incredible. I've never asked, but it must be really stressful.
Yeah, I think they're doing what we're doing, which is starting to stare at the AP results,
Right,
waiting for real numbers.
Comes in.
Yeah.
And you know, as the hours proceed, they'll be looking strategically certain counties, certain cities where they hope or expect their big numbers will come in, and then you know they'll have a big reality check and see if they're right, because obviously Maine's a huge state, 16 counties, lots of miles. I think Ben Midgley's talked about putting 60, 70,000 miles on his pickup truck, driving around everywhere.
Certainly in this state,
Especially the Republicans focusing more on CD2, which is the largest congressional district east of the Mississippi.
Right.
It's huge. Although, you know, we're more concentrated in southern Maine. Democrats focusing more in southern Maine. But regardless, that's the point. They're all going to be looking at what they think their strongholds are, maybe the town they're from, the county they're from, if they've run for re-election before, which most of the Democrats have run for election before, you know, hoping to get, it doesn't matter where your votes come from, but they're, you know, in terms of the total, you don't get more points if they're from this county or that county, but they clearly have their strategy and where they hope to pull in their numbers.
Yeah. You asked about what marks this election season. The other thing, which we haven't talked about obviously yet, is the Senate race. And this whole incredible roller coaster.
Yeah.
Prompted by Graham Plattner and his supporters. And I mean, I think it's fair to say we assume he's going to be the primary winner for the Democrats in the Senate. I mean,
Tonight.
Yes, tonight, that he'll win the primary.
Which, if he's not, would play into this storyline of just developments constantly in the Plattner campaign.
If he doesn't, I would say it would be stunning, given that the likely number 2 suspended her campaign quite a while ago.
Governor Mills.
And we certainly know that the networks have been paying very close attention to this race. We ourselves have crews all across the state tracking the candidates.